Yo, Pokey26 here, and I am going to be kind of documenting some of my progress so far in Unity. It is a basically completely new platform for me to do anything with, and games in general, and scripting, and well, as it turns out, Visual Studio and Blender. All these things are basically completely new to me. I had no background with them, no teaching, no learning. I obviously knew about them and have seen some, basic code scripts before, but like I didn't know about them. I didn't know how everything worked. So this is it's just a new experience, and I'm going to be documenting it along the way a bit. And so far I'm just mostly been testing things out, watching some tutorial videos, checking out lines of code and seeing how it compares to other lines of code doing similar things, trying out some of the built-in Unity tutorials, like the micro game things. And this is where I'm at so far. I started like 2 days ago. It's like the third day now, but I haven't actually done anything today. And as you can see, this is what I have. So you start with like a main camera, a directional light, and I think you start with an object on screen. I can't remember what it is. If it's like just a cube or something, I think. But ignoring that, this is what I got now. So I switched it to a player character being a sphere. I made some basic material, changed how I wanted it to look, be a bit shiny, etc. It is basically a marble, And then I would say what I tried to work on next was the ground. I wanted to do something where I could have the ground be kind of, checkered like this rather than just some flat color. And so the way I did it, rather than making some script that applies the material, like multiple materials into a checkered pattern, instead of that, I just basically made a small initial block in Blender, which was also new to me. So I opened that up real quick, tried to quickly make something. I didn't really have any Blender knowledge, so I had to learn a tiny bit about that too. And, made this block. Because basically, as far as I could tell, you couldn't really make submeshes easily or at all or something in Unity. I'm not sure. So we made this. It's like basically 4 cubes put together into a block, 2x2 by 1. And this allows me to apply 2 different materials to it. So it can basically have a checkered pattern, different colors. And from there, we just mesh them together into whatever shape we want. Here, I was following some tutorials that basically is making a sort of runner game. So I made it into like a line. It's not really the sort of game I want to make, but we're trying it out, just kind of learning things. And I initially had it in just a square instead, because I kind of wanted to make like a full platform and then have ramps and try to get from one point to another type of thing, maybe collectibles along the way, like that sort of thing. But instead, we just have this for now. So I made it into a long line, attached them together into, some sort of grouping, and then just added more to make a long path. It wasn't too difficult, but it did take some learning to figure out how to do the checkered pattern in the first place. And then from there, just added a simple thing to have some sort of water on the side. Obviously, I don't have a material that actually looks like water. I just kind of made my own basic blue thing. But honestly, it doesn't look too bad, right? I got the color so that it sort of fades out a bit as you look into the distance, which to me looks kind of cool. I don't know. And then the big parts. So from there, we started to really do some more confusing things that got me out of my comfort zone. And part of it was coding, scripting, etc. The first step was getting, the player character to be able to move. I followed some code, changed it a bit. So that's the key thing. Like a lot of the time right now, I'm kind of just, copying code over to my thing and then just using it. But the key thing to my understanding right now, since I'm like basically beginner at everything here, is just trying to figure out what each line means, what I can manipulate to better suit my needs and fit it in. So for instance, this code, the main thing I changed here was the transforming position right here, so that the ball going side to side had different limits than what was shown. And I can just show that real quick here. I could maybe disable the gates too, but basically I got the ball so that it reaches the edges here, right? Or reaches the edges how basically I would want them. It could probably go slightly farther, but initially it was only going like this, like inside this first little bit. So I basically added or changed the restraints, and that's me trying to understand the code, trying to understand what I can change and what applies to what. So it was very small right there, but then I did I made these gates. So I'm not sure exactly what I want to do with the gates right now, but currently they function as simply raising score and lowering score, which is also good first steps to do, I would think. And I tried to get some sort of transparent look on them. I'm not completely satisfied with it, but it works for now. It's not terrible. The reddish, pinkish kind of color looks bad, so to say, in terms of you want to avoid it. And that's what I have for score going down and then score going up on the more yellowish greenish type looking one. Tried to get a color scheme that worked with it. And then for the code, this is where I actually really started doing some of the code myself and using multiple sources to kind of understand it. So I kind of had like this basic part here that you can see on the right. This first part here I kind of used from somewhere else, but then it just had score plus plus at the end. And essentially anytime you went through the collider object, your score would just go up +1. But the things I changed to further understand the code and try to get something I wanted was changing it so the score actually goes +10 now, and also having score going down with another object. So I have score going -4 for the other gate. And that was that took a little bit to figure out, especially because I didn't understand which terms would work and which wouldn't. But we got the minus equal, and that worked. And then I also applied another line that I didn't really have any source on. I just kind of assumed it would work. And that was if score less than 0, score equals 0. That way you wouldn't go negative in score. A lot of games, it's better to not make a person feel completely terrible about themselves by having them have negative score. So I felt that was relevant to put in. And as we can see, I can show it. Hopefully it loads fine and doesn't go too fast. So like if I go through the yellow gate, it's plus 10. You can see the score at the bottom left, and now it's 6 for the -4. And to show it again, if I go through the red gate to begin with, no score changes. It's just 0. And that shows that that line is also working. The line, if score is less than 0, score equals 0. So I was able to get it to work, and that's pretty cool. It's definitely it took a bit longer than I would have liked, but we got the basic setup there. The next step is going to be switching it from showing in the score in the debug log, which is this like line at the bottom left, I guess, and instead having it, display on screen in some respect, or maybe having text in front of the gates as well, or like an arrow on the gates, like score up and then up arrow on the yellow gate and score down on the red gate, etc. So that'll be my next step, but not quite there yet. And then besides that, I guess it's just the camera follow. I still think I probably want to manipulate something here with the camera follow or the ball movement, but this we have following the ball currently. I changed the camera as well, so it's got a bit of a downward angle looking at the ball. I think it looks pretty nice. But there's definitely some problems. So if we load the game up again, you can see it's not always the smoothest when there's some movement here. You can see a tiny bit of jitteriness. So I would like to fix that so it looks a little bit smoother when moving around, but it's not bad either, right? And I did actually already change it slightly. Let's see if I can find what exactly I changed again. Where was it? Oh yeah. So for the rigid body, I changed it from none to interpolate and then extrapolate. I think ideally I'd like to use interpolate, but I think I'm using something else on some other part of the script that's messing it up. I can show it here as well. Like it looks smoother, I think, overall, but then when you start moving left and right, it just kind of pauses, like the camera pauses and the movement pauses. Because I think I have some of the movement tied to it in some way that screws it up. So that's not ideal. But extrapolate works for now. It's not perfect, but it is better than having none. You can see even more jittery when I have none here. See, it looks very, the ball just kind of shaking and stuff, and that's not what you want in your game. So I'm working with it, trying to make it a little bit better, but it's not my highest priority right now. My highest priority is just continuing on and making something that works, even if not everything is working as good as I would like. Just make it all work, make it all come together, have something to look at and be like, hey, I did that, right? So this is what I have right now. It's not bad. And like I said, the next step is getting the score to appear in a different manner or on screen, maybe having text on the gates. Setting up more of the course would be nice as well. Right now, it's obviously just testing the gates. That's all I have right now. So there's nothing to it. I think also having some sort of like start button after the game loads, like to start the movement rather than the ball just already moving. That way, when the game loads for me, the ball is not like halfway across the screen already. But there's definitely some things to work on, and that's maybe what we'll see in my next progress video.